I love when I get phone calls that start with the words, Mark, the D line is straight whooping their butts.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. You know the rules. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download the podcast, this show's always going to be free, and I'm always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Look, if you missed yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, you would have heard me mention that. That's why you need to be an everydayer. My everydayer said, hey, Mark, I heard you say that yesterday. It's all right. Don't tell me you didn't enjoy hearing it a second day in a row. I want to take a deeper dive into that statement, though. Does that mean that USC's offensive line is a problem right now? A work in progress? Or USC's defensive line is just that damn good? How do you want to look at this situation? Some might say, I'm worried about the offensive line. Don't think it's strong. Needs more. Others might look at it this way and say, you know what? This defensive line is going to be pretty damn good. Whatever the truth is, look, USC's offensive line is going up against the best defensive line they're probably going to face all season. Can we say that? Is that a fair statement? I mean, look, you can go look at USC's schedule. Let's take their first two games off the out of the discussion, right? I don't think Missouri State or Clay Helton's guys, Georgia Southern. I could be wrong. I just don't think they're going to have the strongest defensive line that USC is going to face this year. Michigan, when they show up to the Coliseum, they'll be good, but they're not going to be anywhere close to what they were in 2024. That defensive line is off to the NFL. By the way, draft starts tonight. The game at Notre Dame, okay, the Leprechauns, they'll have a good defensive line. They usually do. Oregon thinks Bear Alexander will be their missing link. They'll have an above-average defensive line. Illinois, are they going to overpower USC's offensive line? I'm bringing up these road games. So Notre Dame, Oregon later in the year, Illinois. And can you name another defensive line on USC's schedule that's going to wreck the Trojans' offensive line this season? I can't. Certainly not going to be UCLA, right? Right? Just because the defensive line is ahead of schedule, I guess, or ahead of the offensive line at this point. Remember, it's spring camp. This doesn't spell doom and gloom, okay? Stop white knuckling. Stop clenching your fist. Defenses in general are always going to be further ahead during the spring. And then fall camp, everything kind of catches up. And also, let's remember this. Keep this in mind. USC is still trying to replace. They've got the pieces they need, but they're replacing their starting left guard. Their center from last year, he's off to the NFL draft. Right tackle. Good luck in Auburn, Mason. Hope you do it. And again, just because the defensive line is having a good camp, a great camp, that doesn't mean the offensive line isn't having their own moments as well. I mean, this is what spring camp was for. Spring camp is all about seeing, who can do what, finding out what the team's strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Look, I'm not concerned in the least that Cameron Fountain, Anthony Lucas, if those guys are making life miserable for the offense, fine. I'm happy. I mean, why would I get overly emotional and scared that Coach Henney and Coach Nua have their guys, I can't use the word I want to use, screwing stuff up and throwing off the offense's timing? Why would I get upset about that? If this is Lincoln Riley's version of Pete Carroll's, USC's practices are harder than their games, okay, right? What's wrong with that? Remember back in the day, the players would literally come off the field during the presser and they talk to the media. Yeah, man, practices are harder than these games. If that happens again, you start hearing those words, every single Trojan fan that's not throwing things at their computer monitor right now, at their TV screen, I'll tell you what, be mad in the spring. You're going to be really happy in the fall if this is the case. Remember, the players used to say that all the time. The practices, they were harder than the games. Hell, look, if Coach Riley found a bottle of juice that Pete Carroll left behind somewhere back in the back of the pantry, I hope to God he's gulping it down like a frat boy downing a Mickey's Big Mouth. Seriously, just chug a lug. Let me just remind everybody, last year, the offensive line wasn't great, but it got better as the season went along. They played a really strong game out of the box against LSU. I know they got overwhelmed at Michigan. But basically from that point forward, they got better. Against Penn State, I think, who had probably one of the better defensive lines in the country last year, USC's offensive line played with them above and beyond. As far as I'm concerned, USC's offensive line was more than solid against Wisconsin at home. Against Notre Dame, they did their jobs. Okay, you're not going to hold them responsible or point the finger at the offensive line for the reason USC lost that game. But the D line right now, today in April, let's look at the positives. They're bigger. They have more continuity going for them. They're returning guys: Cam Fountain, Anthony Lucas, Braylon Shelby, Devin Tompkins, Kobe Pepe, Jade Abasiri, Elijah Newby's been moved up to the defensive line, Carlon Jones. Those are the returners. They're in their second year now working with Coach Henney, Coach Nua, wrecking the offensive line, messing things up. And then they brought in USC's defense in the offseason. They brought in Jaw Jarrett, Keyshawn Silver. That's a lot of potential with Jarrett. His ceiling he hasn't come close to hitting his ceiling. Keyshawn Silver, I think, is going to be a dude this year for USC. So those guys are there in spring camp. And then don't forget, you brought in the youngsters. You brought in a Thanos, Cash Jacobson, Floyd Ducard. They're there this spring. So USC right now, their defensive line, that group, they're rolling a lot of bodies at that offensive line room. That group's still trying to find their top 5 to 8. This is why USC's defensive line right now is probably a little bit ahead of where USC's offensive line is. So like what Coach Riley was talking about after practice on Tuesday, it's not that things are unsettled or things are more settled. Guys are competing right now. They're just kind of trying to figure it out. Look at it this way. I think this is the best analogy I can use before we wrap up this segment. Excuse me. Remember Elijah Page when he was sent down to the scout team his freshman year? Remember? He went over there. He had to get his butt whooped. It made him a better player, though. It worked, right? This spring, USC's offensive line is getting the Elijah Page workout routine. I'm not calling them the scout team, but Right now, they're going up against some dudes who are being told, go kick their butts, make them better, sharpen that iron. So whatever Elijah Page went through, it showed up in the games. Same thing's going to happen with the offensive line as a unit, as a whole. Whatever's happening this spring, it's going to show up in the fall. And then in those post-game pressers, when Elijah Page, he'll be mic'd up. He'll be saying that, you know what? Our practices are harder than the games. Sometimes history does repeat itself. Remember, Lincoln Riley said when he hired Antonlynn, he was going to do everything to make the team better with the defense in mind first. A lot of people, myself included, find ways to be critical of Lincoln Riley with certain aspects. He's sticking with his words. He's walking the walk. And if USC is a defense first team this year, I'm good. I'm real good. Because I know his offense is going to come along. Last year, I think, was a learning curve for him. It was an anomaly. USC going into the Big Ten Conference, things are done a little bit differently. I think you're going to see a different offense in 2025. It'll be just as potent, just different. And now you're going to have a better defense than the one that gave up, 24 points per game in 2024. So, yeah. Are you mad? I'm happy that the defensive line is whooping the offensive line's butt. And I know that's a little bit of hyperbole. The offensive lines, they're having their moments, but this is what you want. All right. You can see in the next segment, we're going to talk about why USC has rich people problems at quarterback. You're going to like the next segment. Stick around. The NBA playoffs are, they're here. And FanDuel, they're giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets. If your bet wins, you get $250. How easy is that? I love how FanDuel makes betting really easy, whether it's picking my favorite team, diving into those player prop bets, or whatever. You know what? If you want to bet on the three-pointers, steals, assists, you like doing those props? Great. FanDuel has ways to help you make a lot of money. So after the game tips off, you can combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay. Yeah, you can hit it big. Don't miss out. Head on over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. USC, it looks like they're going to be getting 2 elite quarterbacks in their 2026 recruiting class. Why am I saying that? Well, you already know that Jonas Williams committed to USC. Well, on threes, Scott Schrader, Steve Wiltfong, they put in their crystal ball predictions, both of them. And USC's coming up a winner for the Rider Lions sweepstakes. Not bad, right? So we know Jonas Williams flipped his commitment from Oregon to USC back in February. And now the other quarterback that Oregon was hoping to land, they're kind of really, they need him. He's predicted to come to the Trojans. I'll tell you what, if Oregon strikes out with Jared Curtis, who is also, considering Oregon and Georgia, those are the 2 finalists. Dan Lanning's going to be wearing, he'll be 1 strikeout away from wearing the golden sombrero. Yeah. Baseball fans understand the golden sombrero. Anyways, and that would really suck for Oregon if they went in for Jonas Williams, lost him to USC. They went all in for Rider Lions. They lose him to USC. And then they're trying to go across the country for Jared Curtis, who's from Tennessee, just up the street from Georgia, and they lost him. Yeah, that would suck. I hope you all sense my sarcasm. What it is, though, USC's quarterback room, it's in a great situation. Give them to me now. We'll figure it out after the fact. So you got Jaden Mayaba. He's here this year. Maybe one more. I believe he's a redshirt junior this year. You've got Husan Longstreet. He's warming up in the bullpen. And then you've got Jonas on his way in 2026. And then, even though Ryder Lyons is part of the 2026 recruiting cycle, he's 2 years away. He's not scheduled to show up on campus until he finishes his Mormon mission. So the earliest he gets to USC is 2027. When it comes to the quarterback room, USC has rich people problems. Bottom line, right? There is a negative to this. Let's not be naive. I will be shocked, I tell you, if all three of the young guys stick it out. That would be something if they do. And when I say the young guys, I'm talking about Husan, I'm talking about Williams, I'm talking about Ryder Lyons. The days of stacking quarterbacks, elite talent quarterbacks, stacking those guys, those days are done. They're gone. In fact, I believe 60% of the quarterbacks who sign with the school out of high school, they end up transferring. In 2023, and here's the stat, over 62% of the Power 5 starting quarterbacks were transfers. So if you got 69 Power 5 teams, 43 of them had quarterback transfers. Their starting quarterbacks had transferred at least once in their careers. That's crazy, right? The year before 2023 was at 45%. I don't see that trend changing unless some rules are put into place. After Tuesday's practice earlier this week, Coach Riley, he put his stamp of approval on Jaden Mayaba. He's going to be your starter this year. Coach Riley said Mayaba has strung together a really strong past 5 or 6 practices. He's showing a deeper understanding of what the team is trying to accomplish offensively. He's been really good in situational moments, and with his decision-making, he's just kind of gaining momentum, and he's gaining steam. So there you go. Jaden is QB1. And we just want him to keep getting better, right? That's what it's all about right now. But if he has that big season that we anticipate, here's my definition of big season. USC makes the playoffs. He throws for 3,000 yards. He's got, 25 plus touchdowns, five or less interceptions. He's in the Heisman consideration talk. He might consider, hey, you know what? Let's test the NFL draft processes. Or, you know what? He might test the NIL market. And that includes USC. But again, he's going into his redshirt junior year. Make sure I'm not stepping on myself there. Looking at my spring roster right now. Yes, redshirt junior. So he's already in his 4th year of college. But then, in 2026, you've got Husan. He's either going to be a true sophomore or he's going to be a redshirt freshman. Depends how involved he is this year. Jonas Williams will be a true freshman in 2026. And then, as I mentioned, Ryder's a year away in 2027. Eventually, there's going to have to be some separation there. Someone will transfer. Again, don't look at this as a doomsday forecast. That's not what I'm trying to do here. This is just more of it's a reality check. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather be in this situation than having to lure a starter out of the transfer portal. Look, Oregon might be faced with that. They're going with Dante Moore this year. But what if he isn't all that in a bag of chips? I'm sure they've got somebody on their roster they're going to go with, but you got to have if you're an elite program, you should be able to recruit elite quarterbacks. That's the difference. USC, especially with Lincoln Riley, they're always going to be I'm using finger quotes, a chick magnet for quarterbacks. Even before Lincoln Riley, USC was that chick magnet for quarterbacks. Like I said, I'd rather USC be in this situation than anybody else's. Look, UCLA might have found a solution to this. Go find a couple of Iamaliaba brothers, pay their buyouts. I said pay their buyouts because Arkansas, and I'm not sure if Tennessee has jumped in yet, but I know for sure Arkansas, they're suing. They want to get their money back. But you know what? That might be a real thing in the coming future. That might be part of the solution. And I'm not talking about quarterbacks transferring. I'm talking about the whole transfer portal, players collecting a check, jumping in the transfer portal to go collect another check. Wouldn't that be something that you get one transfer and after that, you got to sit out of here if you try it again? You got to do something. But back to the topic at hand. Yeah, USC, they're back to having rich people problems again. Stacking quarterbacks, taking them from the competition, making people say it's not over yet. We'll see. I'm telling you, there's a vibe around USC right now. The players really feel it. They're going to be able to turn the boat around. If they do. Like Coach Riley said, last year they were close. They were in every game. And he is absolutely correct. USC was in every game last year. Hopefully they learn from the mistakes they made so they don't do them again. And they take those close losses, they turn them into big wins this season. All right, one more segment to go. I'm a big fan of people finishing what they started. We can talk about that in the next segment. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? I didn't know that. You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. And you know what? You don't even need a console. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. You'll get endless entertainment with 4K streaming. You can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services. Check, who doesn't have a Netflix account? Prime, Disney Plus, Max. I mean, who doesn't have one of those apps already? And for you gamers, play your high quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Yeah, save some money. Already have a console? No problem. A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel. So, you know what? That's gonna allow you to take your kids' games wherever you want to plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. It's available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, third generation. So head on over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. This is what I like most about Kobe Pepe, Prophet Brown, Anthony Beavers, Lake McBree, and Josiah Zamora is they stayed with it after all the coaching changes, after all the adversity they had to deal with. These are the guys who you need to appreciate the most. I'm not saying that doesn't make them better than their teammates. They're not better Trojans. But it spells fight on no matter how you look at it, right? We know for a fact that Kobe Pepe was ready to hit the transfer portal before last spring. He stuck with the school he fell in love with. Now look at him, right? It makes you wonder, if any of the other guys that I just mentioned, did they consider it? All I know is I'm glad they didn't, right? Like I said, I love guys who finish what they started. And because they stuck it out, it might be their time in 2025. Lake McCree has been a player. Kobe Pepe got his run last year. And he's going to get more run in 2025 with his size. And he's got even more technical development now under his belt with Coach Henny and Coach Nua. And that's a sizable belt. I don't know if you've seen any pictures of Kobe Pepe lately. Dude, huge, massive. Prophet Brown. He is, if you listened or watched the show yesterday, he's in the 2 deep at cornerback. He might be starting at one cornerback spot. As far as Lake McCree is concerned, that dude deserves 3 Purple Hearts and a Medal of Honor. I mean, the dude is really, what he's put his body through and keeps coming back for more. Yeah. Salute that dude like this. Anthony Beavers Jr., all he does, he just goes about his business quietly. You never hear anything about him. That's a good thing. That's a bad thing. I mean, so since he's been at USC, he's played safety, he's played nickel, linebacker. This year, he's full-time linebacker. He's backing up Eric Gentry at the will. And I have a pretty good idea. I feel pretty confident saying that when Antonlynn wants to see a 3 linebacker set, Beavers will probably be out there. He's considered the best tackler on the team. By the way, one little footnote I want to add to him. He's getting his master's degree in May. Again, guys who finished what they started. He didn't just get his bachelor's degree. He stuck with the football team. He kept working, and he kept his nose in the textbooks. Now he's got a master's. Pretty cool, huh? Like I said, I love guys who finish what they start, who fought through different types of adversity. Whether it was injury, playing time, lack thereof, NIL politics, which led to lack of playing time, whatever. I don't care. These are the guys I just want to make sure we're pointing out. Spend a few minutes to say, you know what, those 5 guys, yeah, thank you. Extra thank you. Remember last year, I did a bunch of shows where I was interviewing the walk-ons during the summer. I'm going to try and set that up again. But those guys who survived the end of the Clay Helton saga and then waited their turn, right? You got to love that. You really do. Perseverance breaks down resistance. And now look at them. All right. Once again, thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen today. For your second listen, go check out the Portal Show. Friend of the show, Brian Smith, he has the latest rumors, portal entries, signings, everything you need to know. So if you want to be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape, find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. On that note, I will be back tomorrow with another episode. I'll have my Friday rant. See if we get another recruiting commitment. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another crystal ball. There'll be something. I'll have a practice report. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.